Hello, Merry Christmas. Here we are for another Wind in the Willows episode review. I'm sure we all know which one it is. It is, of course, the Yuletide Entertainment, that wonderful special one from Series 1. So, getting into the festive spirit, hence the hat, elf hat. I've got a couple of things to share with you before we start the review. As you know, I'm a bit of a collector, as the collection behind suggests. You might have seen it, so I actually had it in the cabinet for a while, but I found this online a while back, and it's much bigger than I thought it was. This is a plaster casting mould set, and it's got on there copyright 1986. Doesn't unfortunately still have the actual plaster mix in there, but it does have the moulds, and they're quite nice. There's a mould there. And one day I'll do it with my kids, make some Wind in the Willows figurines that we can paint together. So I just thought that was nice. Nice little set there, quite a rare item, didn't have that. So that's that. And then more recently, this is quite exciting, I've been looking for this for a long time. You know the School Days video, many of you remember that from the 80s. I do have a few versions of it because it came in different coloured tapes and so on. And being the serious collector I am, I of course had to get all of those. But what I've never come across till now is the original pack for it. Now those videos were contained with colouring books and felt pens, and there was a series of them for different kind of children's series at the time. And I remember them in the 80s on the shelves. I remember I had the sooty one. But I haven't seen one in its pack ever on sale on eBay or anything until now. And so there's the pack itself, the packaging. I've already taken it out of the packaging. It wasn't sealed, so it's not in perfect condition. But the tape itself, it is almost mint. I can tell it's never been played. I can just tell by the way the cassette is there. So yeah, never been played. But the best part is the colouring book. And there it is. Nice little colouring book there. It is partly coloured, unfortunately. As you can see, some colourings there, but otherwise it's in beautiful condition. And of course the episodes are School Days and Hot Air, so you can see some lovely drawings from Hot Air here. And from doing a bit of internet research, I realised that the artist, the person who drew these, actually looked at freeze frames of the videos themselves. So they're beautiful, they're very accurate. Lovely drawings. Look at that one of Toad there from School Days. I'll try and put some scans so you can see them, but absolutely beautiful, and such a rare item to find. I can now photocopy these and get my girls to do some colouring in them. And then on the back is all the other kind of videos that were available, and I remember the He-Man one, D'Artagnan, Danger Mouse of course, and many others. And like I say, I had the sooty one, but that was it. So yeah, nice little find on eBay recently I thought I'd share with you. Okay, so let's get on into this, because this is a slightly longer episode. Before I start, in case you do want to sync it up, I am reviewing the longer version, so this is the 25-minute version as opposed to the more now widely released 20-minute version. So the 25-minute version was released on video in the 80s and then into the 90s, but not on DVD in the UK. It was, however, released on DVD in the US as its full version, and that's the version I'm looking at here. So let's play it, and I'll explain a bit more as we watch. So I'm pressing play right now. Here we go. So, yes, so there were two versions of this. So the one originally broadcast is this one, in its complete form, and it was released on video this way for many years, throughout the 80s and 90s. And for some reason, when it was shown on Channel 5, it was cut. 5 minutes of it had been cut. And then when it was released on video again and on DVD in sort of like, the 2000s, in the UK, it was always the shorter version, which disappointed me when the complete collection came out, because I kept saying to myself, it's not quite complete. It's 5 minutes of footage missing. So this has now become the rarer version of it, and but like I say, the box set, the complete first series box set that was released by A&E Video in the US, included this full version of it. Incidentally, I helped out with those releases. This is back in the early 2000s or mid 2000s. They got in touch with me because they realised I was a big fan of it, and kind of found me through the internet through another fan site that was up and running at the time, and I offered to help out. I was responsible for saying it should be called the complete first series, not the complete first season, as US audiences would refer to it as. And I selected the bonus episodes that appeared on those releases. It was nice to be kind of semi-involved in those. Shame they didn't get all the series out. So, yeah, the longer version is the better version, and I'll indicate which scenes were deleted when we get to them. So talking about the episode itself, it is directed by Chris Taylor. It was the last one of Series 1 and was broadcast around this time, probably slightly later than now, but around Christmas time in 1984. And it is a true classic. I mean, this is the one I perhaps remember more than any other episode, basically because it was the first episode on that Winter Tales release. The others, of course, being Winter Sports and The Rescue, which I still need to review, which are coming up. And out of all the videos, it's apart from the film, it was the one that meant the most to me, just because I had it from such a young age, had it for years, and many years went by before I got any others, really. And so it was probably the most watched video I ever had. And I've still got it behind me somewhere. The actual one, there it is up there. The very one I had as a child. And it was special to me. And it's a great episode, not just for nostalgic reasons. I think it's a great script. Lovely idea. All the characters are getting together to put on a Christmas show at Toad Hall, even the weasels, as you can see. And this is one of their funniest things. I'm ruining it by talking over it. Basically rehearsing the classic "my dog's got no nose" joke, and the henchman, of course, keeps getting it wrong. And my dad, he used to love this, and he'd always used to say, "Why has he got such a problem with dog? Why is he terrified of dogs?" I suppose a weasel would be. So as he says there, you couldn't make it a rabbit, could you? And I love the way the camera's panning from one rehearsal to the next. We saw Ratty earlier, and his Toad actually rehearsing a Gilbert and Sullivan song, "Take a Pair of Sparkling Eyes," which of course is from The Gondoliers, which I think I said recently I was recently in on stage. Didn't play this part, but I played the villainous part in it, which is good fun. And there are quite a few nods, as I've said before, to Gilbert and Sullivan throughout the series, and this being the earliest one. I love Toad's outfit there. That jacket, that smoking jacket, was recently rediscovered. I found it in a bin bag that the archive had just found. We emptied it out, and one of the costumes I recognised instantly was that one. And then the camera pans again to Badger, he's got his wonderful magic lantern there, hinting that we'll be using it later in the show. Now, Badger, of course, is the producer here, and future episodes, there's kind of nods to this with a producer's lot. He produces that show and that one, and then in Midsummer Night's Disaster in Series 5, there's a hint at Badger doing the summer entertainment. Bit of discontinuity between summer and winter productions, but Badger basically was always the producer, voice of authority. Now, I didn't mention before that Mole was actually preparing a gondola. That great line he had before, "If I don't bang, Toad won't have a gondola." So there's already a sense of urgency that they're under rehearsed. The audience will be here very shortly. They've got to get ready. The weasels are still unprepared. Now, the one disappointment I have is that you never actually see the weasels act. I think it was written, I think it was in the script originally. And it probably meant to be even longer than it was. Yeah, it was 5 minutes longer than a regular episode, but it would have been nicer to have been a kind of a special in its own right. It's kind of not quite an episode, not quite a special. Now, here we are. This is the first of the deleted scenes, as it were.
So this footage here, not so much seen in like later releases. So this is wonderful. This is basically Otter playing. If you listen carefully, you'll note that it's We'll Go Boating from the Great Steamer, of course. So Otter's attempting a piano version of it, but kind of failing miserably. But it's beautiful. It's such a lovely example of playing badly but doing it well, like Les Dawson type effects. I interviewed Keith Hopwood about this composer, and apparently Brian Ibbotson, who was like the arranger on the series, did all these piano pieces, so he would have done this and did it so well. I've always wanted to get a nice clear recording of this, but so far not successful. And my dad, being a musician and teaches piano as well, he knows exactly when it's wrong and why it's so funny when it's wrong. He can hear what the right note should be. Incidentally as well, if you look at that background behind there, lovely picture of Venice, and that again connects with the Gondoliers, which was set in Venice, although Toad never gets to perform. But if you look behind me, it's that there. That is it. That is the original background, which I was lucky enough to be given when I left at Cosgrove Hall, when I was kind of in my last weeks there. I saw them and asked one of the producers there, is this going to be thrown out? I recognise them. They're not in brilliant shape. They're very stained and weren't stored very well. But he said to them, he looked at them and said, "Oh, I remember these," and he rolled them up and just handed them and said, "I'll look after them." So yeah, I've always treasured them. And the one below is from this episode as well, but that'll pop up. Can't speak today. That'll pop up later on. There we go. And the Otter puppet there is interesting because he changed. I think I've said before, his design, his sculpt changed in later episodes. But all through Series 1, he is that sculpt. And in Series 2 as well, actually. But I think it's from the end of Series 2, actually, he changed. I'm thinking of Fancy Dress, the episode Fancy Dress, which again I haven't reviewed yet, but he's different there. I just something about Ratty's outfit, there's lovely colours. I love his blue jacket and the red bow tie. It's just really nice and smart. Now most of this Yuletide Entertainment is made up of songs, and familiar songs. We just had We'll Go Boating, of sorts. And of course this is Peter Sallis's rendition of Duck's Ditty. Ian Carmichael, of course, sang it in the original film. And there's a lovely version of it. You could in effect cut all this together and make a nice little soundtrack version of it if it wasn't for it fading out just then. Now you notice in this episode there's a lot of shots of the audience, and it's very well directed. You've got a lot of the stage and then overhead shots like that. Chief and the henchman sort of in time with music. And now this is the first time we cut to Toad's bedroom and Toad getting ready for his grand appearance. Yeah, he's looking forward to it, to making his grand entrance. Of course the others all backstage, kind of helping each other out and getting things ready together, and there's Toad just looking after himself in his bedroom. So we've had Otter's performance, which was okay, mediocre. Ratty went down very well, of course.
First class, Ratty. First class. Now, let's get to my magic lantern. Yes, I'll take over here, Badger. Good man. Right, Molo.
The only thing I wonder about is that Ratty's come off, and we assume Badger's the next act, but I haven't even got the sheet ready yet in the lantern. Unless there was another act that happened between, Ratty and Badger. Maybe it was the Weasels. It could have been the Weasels. Oh no, it couldn't have been, because the Chief Weasel says, well, he got more laughs than we did after Otter played, hinting that they'd already had their act. Again, shame that we missed that. It wasn't included. So this is where the pace slows down a little bit. I mean, this is Badger basically taking the audience through a slide lecture. And this is nice because he's got the Taj Mahal there, and Badger often mentions his visits to India in quite a few episodes. Fancy Dress, and later on Mr. Toad of the Times, and, all sorts of episodes. I like Billy Rabbit in this one. It's very cute. Nice lighting as well. Look at that moonlight effect there.
About another 5 minutes of Mr. Badger's slides.
And in terms of where I put this episode, it felt about right here because it doesn't quite feel like Christmas yet. But it feels like Christmas is, just round the corner. And here, of course, we're getting towards Christmas, sort of midway through December now, and, there's another sort of Christmassy episode to do as well around the time. We'll get to that. Look at that powder effect. So that would have been glass again on the front of the screen. Now, this outfit that Toad's wearing is pretty much complete. I did borrow it. I was allowed to borrow it when I was doing my MA, and I actually very carefully animated the hat that he was wearing on the puppet that I was using for my MA work. But the complete costume exists, even his shoes, which the shoes are always completely made with the steel plates and everything, and just screwed into the armature, so you would have had a bit of an armature in each shoe. My mum always used to say, well, just like you should say that. I always react like that, just saying stupid things. I've got a lot of Toad in me, I'm afraid. And this is Paul Berry, actually, and one of the first episodes Paul Berry would have been involved with. And this is iconic now to me. Toad swallowing his moustache. Look at that animation of him falling over and losing his balance.
Mr. Toad, 4 minutes, please.
Only thing with Billy's shots is you expect to hear a bit of background noise from Toad Hall below, because it's all going on below, really.
It's 4 minutes,
It
Mr.
wouldn't be that quiet.
Pardon?
So you just make out what Toad's saying. I think David Jason did a great job of, having a croaky throat. And Billy, of course, reveals all. Now, the only thing that struck me, actually in later years, not so much as a child, is the fact that no one really seemed concerned for Toad's safety. I mean, Billy said he swallowed his moustache, and he's probably choking, for all they know, choking to death, and no one's actually checking up on him. I mean, maybe someone did at one point, and they've just left that out, but it just strikes me that, yes, there is that saying that the show must go on, but if Toad's actually in serious trouble, they should halt proceedings and go and check he's alright. But there you go. Once the lights come back on. Now, I've never quite understood the significance of the camera panning and showing the lantern there. It's a nice shot, but when you get a shot like that, it's usually for a reason, like there's going to be a reason or any significance around that object later in the episode, but there's not another reference to it. I love that. Look at the order of height there. David Jason again, of course, doing Billy Rabbit choking. And if you listen carefully here, you've got all the audience clapping, sort of impatiently waiting for the next act. And they're singing while we're waiting. The weasels you can hear. No. And that's just the way Badger sort of did that little scratch, and the actual latex moved very kind of naturally. But of course we think of it as fur, but like how the spotlight is on Mole. Poor Mole. He feels so nervous.
I'll do it. Splendid. Oh, good old Mole.
I guess one of the others could have stepped in. Ratty could have done another song or something. But poor little Mole, you know. I like that. Nice directing there. Like Billy's like, I don't know what to say. Now maybe, having said, you know, no one's checked up on Toad, maybe it's sort of going on now. Maybe Badger's gone to see on him or something.
And unfortunate disposition of Mr. Toad. I'm afraid that he will not be able to sing us his selections from Gilbert and Sullivan.
All cheery.
Be fortunate in
Yeah, very
obtaining
funny.
the services of that well-known personality, the ever-popular
And he gets a big introduction, and it's wonderful. And this, again, really made my dad laugh. How all the weasels are saying, Mole.
Come on, Molly, we won't eat you. Oh, no. Molly, I would like to
It's nice to see Otto occasionally, when you see him at the back there.
well, to where is you,
To where he's human. There's some great one-liners in this, and again, it's why it's such a great script.
sing a little song.
Now, interestingly, I've just remembered I've got a one of those board books that came out in the 80s, which is basically like a picture book. They did one for this episode, but one of the photos in there shouldn't have been in there because it shows all the edge of the set and kind of the gap between the stage and the audience, which would have been the case. I would have shot all the audience shots and then all the stage shots separately. But this particular photo, yeah, it's really interesting. And yeah, I'll see if I can get an image of it up. But, I was shouting something there. I've never quite made it out. I don't know if anyone else tried.
Key of A major. And let's give it to the Molly with style.
So Ratty to the rescue. Just doing that.
2, 3,
Gives him his key.
You've got to have a little bit of style.
Now this, of course, this is the song that the others sang to Mole in Mole's Cousin. And I love that we got this version. I knew this version years before I saw Mole's Cousin. Like I say, I had this from a young age, and then some of those other episodes I didn't see until Channel 5 repeated them in the 90s, late 90s. So this was always the version for me of this lovely song. I love it. Isn't that lovely, that smile that Ratty gives? He's very proud of his friend, isn't he? And what a team they make, Ratty and Mole. And Mole is a great performer. You know, when he's encouraged and he builds his confidence. Richard Pearson never thought he was a good singer, but I think he's perfect as Mole, isn't he? He sings in tune, and all of them do, you know. It's like David Jason, he always hated singing, but he does it so well when he's in character. I like that. All the swaying. Real showstopper, isn't it? And you can see that Venice background a lot more clearly in this one. This number. Now we've cut to Toad, so like I say, maybe Badger or somebody has checked up on him. But how do we know he's okay? He's still got that moustache lodged in his throat. Now this is the second cut scene, so now in more recent cuts we go from Toad choking on the bed to everybody leaving outside. So yeah, this was all cut. This is Badger's introduction, or kind of saying thanks to everyone before he introduces the final act. And we also see this lovely little interaction between Ratty and Mole. And it's nice. It's a shame that it's missing now. So hopefully one day it can be re-released in this full version. Weasel eating that sandwich at the back. Nice animation there. Now this is interesting. So Badger introduces it as a rendition of Dulcie Doomham. And Dulcie Doomham was of course the title of one of the chapters from the original book. And the song itself was never actually called Dulcie Doom, it was simply just called Carol. And it's another nod to the film, of course, so it was sung in the film, but you never quite hear it in its entirety because we cut in and out of the song, we cut into Mole End and we can kind of hear it, but this is the first time we can really hear the whole thing, well not the whole thing, but 3 verses clearly. I think it's the first 2 verses and the last verse. I think there's 5 verses in total, I think, something like that. And of course there's the other background, so the one here that you can see here, there it is behind them there, so I feel very lucky to have those. Again though, not in the best shape, you can't see from there, but they're very, very stained. I'm not sure whether they can be treated, but I think it's just damp, the way they were stored for years, just damp got to them. But yeah, nice bit of history there. And when I met with Terry Brown, he uncovered the concept drawings, so he had the concept drawings and I had the final pieces, and it was nice to kind of bring them together finally. And of course it gives you an idea of scale, of course, as well, doesn't it? Now there we go, back to the... So once they finish singing, this is the point where it now cuts in the most common version of it now. And it's a nice kind of nod to the opening shot of the episode. And there's Ratty saying Merry Christmas. So of course we are, like I say, we are near Christmas, but not quite Christmas yet, but we've got the lovely wreaths on the door there. Very Christmassy, very jolly. And you can see all the decoration, of course, around Toad Hall. I think Badger's earned a good sleep after all that. And it's lovely. I mean, yes, I would have loved it to be in a longer episode, because it could have been a longer concert. We could have seen the Weasels do their act, and I don't know, maybe something else. And this is a nice comedic ending. So I assume Toad could breathe properly, he was fine, but now that it's come out... Lovely animation, very clear and concise. Looking down on an empty hall.
Where are they? Well, they've gone, Toad. Gone? It's all over, Toad. We couldn't wait. Over? You couldn't? My song? What about my song?
I do feel for him a bit.
Well, Toad.
Poor Toad, he wanted to be the star of the show, of course, and of course he ended up not being in it at all.
Next year.
I love that fun line from Badger, next year.
Next year.
Just waking up from his doze there. Again, very well directed. Chris Taylor was a fantastic director. He was very on the nose, really. Knew exactly where to place the camera and everything. Interestingly, bit of trivia, these titles, you notice they're further back, they're wider. Only those opening ones and then the rest are the same. Don't know why. They just seem to want to do that for this special. There we go, Andrew Lord and Paul Berry, of course. Which is the team I think we had for the last one I reviewed, Patient Toad, interestingly. So being Series 1, you see a lot of names that moved up. There's Terry Brown there, Francis Vose eventually became a director. I do love that episode though. I mean, it's such a classic, isn't it? All those episodes on the Winter Tales video are classics. I look forward to getting to winter sports and the rescue in due course, but because of the way winter starts officially kind of in December, and with the other episodes that I had to review, there's not really room for them until after Christmas, unfortunately. So even though Toad refers to a Christmas hamper in winter sports, they won't be reviewed till January. But we might get snow in January, we might get snow soon, I don't know. If I get anything, if a couple of years gone by or anything to go by, we will get snow in January, so it might be very appropriate. So there we go. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. Like I say, that's one of my absolute favourites. It always has been. Yes, I do. I always, whenever I watch it, I try and watch that longer version. I did actually attempt cutting together a few years back now. The version of it from the PAL videos. Obviously, this is NTSC because it's the US release, but using the existing DVD release in the UK and then the VHS footage of the deleted scenes, I was able to splice it together. But of course, there's a quality difference there. But there we go. That's the Yuletide Entertainment. So thanks for watching, as always. Enjoy getting into the festive spirit. Next week, it is actually Tunnels and Tremors. I remember seeing that for the first time on Channel 5, and it was around the time that I'm reviewing it. Christmas just around the corner, I think it was. And that again is a very festive one as well. Lovely shots of Toad Hall with a Christmas tree and everything. And that's kind of the last Christmassy episode before we get into the New Year episodes. There's 2 of those, of course. So do join me next week for Tunnels and Tremors, and enjoy getting ready for Christmas. Merry Christmas and see you soon.